everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about the Anunnaki and why in the modern era people believe that these gods are more than legends, but actually aliens. History.com and plenty of other known sources have talked about the Anunnaki, but this video was recommended for me to cover, so I figured I'd give it a go. If you guys do have any topics you'd like to see in a video, feel free to comment them down below, or you can even email them to me if you like. My email is in my description box. Now, why do people believe the Anunnaki are aliens? Well, the reason is pretty straightforward. The Sumerians in ancient Mesopotamia achieved over 100 firsts for human civilization. Advances in writing, agriculture, science, mathematics, medicine, astronomy, transportation, building, you get the idea. They all originated there in Sumer. The Sumerians credit these achievements to the Anunnaki giant winged gods, who are only found in ancient cuneiform texts. Could these gods be more than legend? Is it possible that civilization made sudden huge advancements in development 5,000 years ago? And could the human race have been jump-started or even genetically created by extraterrestrial beings in the remote past? If so, could we reunite with these celestial visitors? All of these questions can be boiled down into a few short answers, but I'm going to try and go into a little bit of depth here and explain where this all came from in the first place. In short, the deities of the ancient Sumerians, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians have been credited to all of these accomplishments. A lot of credit for this conspiracy theory about the Anunnaki can actually go toward the man named Zecharia Sitchin for his fringe theories on the origins of Earth. According to his official website, Sitchin.com, he is one of the few scholars able to read and interpret ancient Sumerian and Akkadian clay tablets. His interpretations and theories were compiled into his 7 books known as the Earth Chronicles. In his first novel, The 12th Planet, and its sequels, Sitchin claims there's a 12th planet beyond Neptune known as Nibiru that reaches our inner solar system once every 3,600 years. According to Sitchin, an advanced race of human-like extraterrestrials called the Anunnaki live on Nibiru and are the missing link in the Homo sapiens evolution. There have been no new postings on Sitchin's official webpage since 2017, but some 4,126 people follow the Zecharia Sitchin Facebook page, which continues to make posts to this day. Additionally, Sitchin's books have sold millions of copies worldwide and have been translated into almost 20 languages, so his influence is certainly noteworthy. The belief in Zecharia Sitchin and what he professed is important because it attempts to provide an answer to some of humanity's timeless questions, namely, why are we here and how did we get here? However, his explanations provide an extraordinary answer because they contradict our current knowledge regarding our solar system and the celestial bodies found therein, and cannot be scientifically proven nor disproven, as the only evidence is based upon subjective interpretations. The Anunnaki, he believes, arrived on Earth 450,000 years ago looking for minerals, namely gold, which they began mining in Africa. Why they were looking for gold, I don't really have an answer for. I don't really know why the Anunnaki would come here for gold. Does it exist nowhere else? And if that's the case, why wouldn't they mine it themselves? If they're so intelligent, if they're so smart, why can't they do it themselves? I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions here, but when Anunnaki miners became displeased with working conditions, it was decided that Anunnaki genes and Homo erectus genes could be engineered to create slaves to replace the miners, thus resulting in Homo sapiens, or mankind as we know it. But while Sitchin's theories aren't exactly based on real science, they sure sounded more scientific to his believers, some of which, according to my source, were ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. This is just my opinion, so feel free to take it or leave it, but it seems like people that may value a close-knit community but be seeking a scientific and evidence-based truth could be particularly susceptible to these kinds of messages. They'd still be in a fringe, close-knit, echo chamber type scenario, but the truth that Sitchin provides isn't necessarily reality. The thing is, there's not a single line in the Sumerian text that Sitchin claims to translate that actually discusses a planet named Nibiru. His translations have been debunked, and many scientists with far more credentials than him simply say that he's purposely mistranslating what the Anunnaki are. Whether it's because Sitchin is deluded, he wants attention, or he's stubborn, who knows? It could be because he likes selling millions of copies of books. But the evidence just isn't there. As one source explains, central to Sitchin's narrative are a group of alien beings known as the Anunnaki, whom he claimed crossed their own DNA with that of Homo erectus in order to create mankind, for the purpose of using them as slaves. Today, these Anunnaki are often variously portrayed in AAT literature as the scientific equivalent of the creator of the human race, as portrayed in numerous religions. Anunnaki actually means princely seed, or princely royal blood. Sitchin's translation of Anunnaki as those who from heaven came in itself is an error, or was completely fabricated, and all modern translations of the term in this fashion are merely relying on Sitchin's own publications. Scholars are free to search the entire spectrum of Sumerian literature at the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature to test any of the terms referenced by Sitchin or the present article for themselves. This source also shows a diagram at the bottom in which it does exactly that and translates those words. You can see it doesn't mean the creator of the human race. It doesn't mean those who from heaven came. But the Anunnaki are never depicted as alien space gods in Sumerian art and iconography whatsoever. The term Nibiru, as I mentioned, isn't identified as a planet. It's only used in contexts that refer to Jupiter, Mercury, the god Marduk, and a star. There may be confusion among scholars since it has a fourfold meaning, but that does mean that Sitchin is just defining it as however he wants. Though Sitchin has passed away, his belief still lives on. Maybe because it's a more fascinating explanation to things than, hey, the Sumerian people were talking about the stars and the sun, but interesting doesn't mean accurate. The truth can sometimes be boring, and here, by the looks of things, that's the case. Sorry to be a downer. So then, how did the Sumerians invent so much? They're credited with the wheel, the sail, writing, irrigation, cities, maps, mathematics, time, clocks, surgery, and so much more. There's a few reasons, but one massive reason is that they explored a scientific hypothesis first, or the first that we know of it seems. Rather than simply believe in the will of the gods, they believed that they could influence the will of the gods. As one source states, an ancient Sumerian farmer would not ask, "Why are my fields barren when my neighbor's fields are fertile?" because the obvious answer was it was the will of the gods. The question would be, how do I influence the will of the gods to make my fields fertile? It could be that the gods simply required greater acts of devotion from the farmer, but it could also be that the gods wanted the person to do something he or she would not have done otherwise, and so purposefully handed them this challenge so that they would invent the system of irrigation, and more people than just that one farmer would now have water for their land. They had a different way of thinking and of addressing problems. Not to mention, humans first settled in Mesopotamia in the Paleolithic era. Around 14,000 BC, they had settlements, and it wasn't until 9,000 BC that they had these irrigation techniques. That's 5,000 years to pass. Then the first cities and writings were a good 4,000 to 5,000 years after that. I'm not saying that this makes them any less impressive, but think about that from a modern perspective. Think about all that we've accomplished in the past few hundred years alone, how cars were invented, how cities and industry and technology has grown. Progress doesn't equate to aliens, and the developments in ancient Mesopotamia took many, many thousands of years. It is fascinating to think about ancient culture, but these weren't just sky gods. Anu was a sky god, possibly influencing the term Anunnaki in the first place, just as other gods were gods of water or hymns or spirits or demons of evil. That doesn't mean all of their gods were sky gods, just Anu. That shouldn't read as aliens. As one source says, there is no doubt of one thing. Ancient Babylonians were far more advanced than modern humans give them credit for. A clay tablet translated in 2015 shows that astronomers made extremely accurate mathematical calculations for the orbit of Jupiter a full 1400 years before Europeans did. Babylonians also may have created trigonometry 1,000 years before the ancient Greeks. But is this proof of aliens? Well, no, it doesn't seem that way. It just seems that ancient cultures may have been a bit smarter than we give them credit for. But with all of that said, that's actually where I'm going to end today's video. I apologize for any mispronunciations there. I definitely don't recognize some of these terms, but thank you guys so much for bearing with me. Again, if you've got any recommendations for future videos, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and please be sure to subscribe to get a new video like this every Friday. Bye guys!